Good afternoon. My name is Damian Frazee. I'm here at Communications 1010 presenting my persuasive speech, Tree of Heaven or Tree of Hell. Just as in my informational speech, I prepared a PowerPoint presentation that you can follow along with this speech. If you'd like to pause this presentation now and load that PowerPoint presentation up so that you can follow along, please feel free to do so. Approximately a month ago, I received my IRS tax refund check, and as it happens on an annual basis, my partner and I sat down and discussed what we could use that money for. A number of things came up, but we decided upon the removal of a couple of trees out of the front yard of our home. We had had a couple of limbs fall off the trees during the winter time. The trees indeed looked like they were kind of towards the end of their life cycle, and we felt that they were threatening not only our house, but also our neighbor's house. So it was decided to get some estimates on having the trees removed. Thankfully, one of the gentlemen that came and looked at the trees was able to identify them, and he identified both trees as Ailanthus Altissima, also known as the Tree of Heaven. Sometimes it's even referred to as a Chinese sumac. If you'll go ahead and move to page 2 on the PowerPoint presentation. Before we go any further, I think it's important that we define what an invasive species is, and I'm going to read directly from the USDA, U.S. Department of Forestry definition. An invasive species is defined as a species that is not non-native to the ecosystem under consideration, and whose introduction causes or is likely to cause economic or environmental harm or harm to human health. Please note on that PowerPoint presentation I have a map of the United States. The states that are colored in red indicate where the U.S. Forestry Service regards the Tree of Heaven as an invasive species. You can see it's quite prevalent on both coasts where it was first introduced, and then it's kind of migrated into the center of the country. If you'll go ahead and move to PowerPoint presentation 3. What I have on this page are illustrations out of Chinese art of the Tree of Heaven. It goes back quite a ways in Chinese culture. It's a highly regarded tree. You'll see it referred to in very, very early dictionaries, botanical books, reference sources, and also medicinal books in the Chinese culture. It was used for a variety of home remedies to cure baldness and depression and irritable bowel and all this kind of thing. Today, it's primarily looked at as a kind of home remedy, as an astringent, as a cleaning agent for wounds and things like that. Above and beyond that, there really is no other use for this tree. The wood is not good. It's not strong enough. It's very soft wood. So there really is no other use for this Tree of Heaven. According to the Invasive Plant Species Atlas of New England, the Tree of Heaven didn't exist in the North America prior to the 1780s. In 1784, a botanist Gardner out of Philadelphia imported the Tree of Heaven from China, a gentleman by the name of William Hamilton. By 1840, the Tree of Heaven was for sale, commercially available in the United States, especially on the East Coast, as an ornamental shade tree for parks, for municipalities to use as a planting along boulevards and avenues. It was a very hardy tree. It was a very fast-growing tree. And at that point, its invasive nature hadn't been quite figured out yet. Cities and gardeners liked the tree because it grew very fast and it provided a very nice amount of shade, and they were very large trees once they were mature. If you'll move to PowerPoint presentation 4, the problem with the tree of heaven. One of the biggest problems with it is that it crowds out native species by reproducing both asexually and sexually. So it produces a tremendous amount of seeds. In one season, a tree can disperse over 7,000 seeds. In addition, the tree has a tendency to sprout from its roots, so that it spreads out not only by seed, but also by sprouting from its roots. It spreads very quickly, and again, it grows very quickly. It very easily shades out other plants, and in addition, the tree itself produces chemicals which slow or retard the growth of other species, whether they're native or not. So this is a tree that's very aggressive, it grows very quickly, it spreads very quickly, and on top of that, it has chemicals in it that retard the growth of any other species of tree or plant life around it. Indeed, in my yard, even the grass didn't grow all that well around the trees. So you'll go ahead and move to PowerPoint page 5. The other real big issue where we address the issue of economics is that the tree grows very quickly, grows very fast, and its roots will invade sewer systems. You can see the pictures there on the PowerPoint presentation. It will break up sewer systems and water pipes, and it will also very easily crack sidewalks and make them very uneven and make them unsafe to walk on. So, in conclusion, we want to look back at that definition of an invasive species from PowerPoint slide 2. You can see that we've identified characteristics of this invasive species as defined by the USDA. The Ailanthus is indeed a non-native species. It was introduced in about the 1780s. It was brought to this country from China. Despite the misguided introduction to the U.S., it was soon discovered that the trees were very invasive. They grew very quickly. There was no value to the tree at all. And they indeed retarded the growth of native species of trees. Ailanthus Altissima causes economic damage by municipalities having to replace sidewalks, sewers, and water systems because of the invasive nature of the root systems. So I think I've indeed made a good case for the tree of heaven really being a tree of hell. It is an invasive species. It's well worth your effort to recognize this terrible tree in your property if you happen to have it. The tree will do you no favors, and indeed, in one way or the other, will cause you money. I would say step up and participate in the active eradication of this aggressive, toxic, and invasive species, and give our native species of oak and poplar and beech and pecan, chestnut, and others a fighting chance against this botanical blitzkrieg. I thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Have a pleasant day.